Union government introduced the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, PDPB, 2023, in Lok Sabha on 3 August 2023. The bill is intended to prohibit cross-border data transfers, penalize firms for data breaches, and establish a framework for establishing a data protection authority to enforce compliance. There has been no announcement of a date for enactment. What will the Data Protection Bill do? The bill establishes requirements for businesses handling and processing data, as well as individual rights. Its purpose is to prohibit cross-border data transfers, penalize firms for data breaches, and provide a framework for the establishment of a data protection body to ensure compliance. Noncompliance and failure can result in penalties for businesses and institutions. The companies or organization will also be compelled to discontinue retaining user data if it no longer serves the intended business purpose. No corporation or organization will be permitted to process personal data that is likely to have any detrimental effect on a child's well-being. Government agencies may be exempt from the law on this basis. Furthermore, the proposed legislation establishes various rights for citizens, referred to as data principles. Right to information. Data principles have the right to access information about the processing of their personal data, along with a summary of the data itself. Right to withdraw consent. Individuals can withdraw their consent for data processing at any point, and they are entitled to be informed if their data has been shared with a third party. Right to correction and erasure. Data principles have the authority to rectify inaccuracies in their personal data and request the erasure of such data when no longer necessary. Right of grievance redressal. This empowers data principles to register complaints with the data fiduciary. In cases of inadequate or unsatisfactory responses, grievances can be escalated to the Data Protection Board. The bill outlines certain obligations for data principal, including refraining from providing false information and filing false complaints. Simultaneously, the proposed legislation places several responsibilities on data holding companies. Transparency. Data fiduciaries must transparently explain the personal data they intend to collect and the purpose behind the collection. Informed consent. Prior informed consent is mandatory for collecting an individual's personal data. Withdrawal of consent. Individuals retain the right to withdraw consent anytime. Data accuracy. Measures should be implemented to ensure the accuracy and completeness of processed data. Security measures. Adequate security measures must be in place to prevent data breaches. Data retention. Data should only be retained as long as required for the intended purpose. Data breach notification. In the event of a data breach, both the Data Protection Board and affected data principals must be notified. Data sharing. Data fiduciaries should establish contracts before sharing or transferring data to other fiduciaries or data processors. For larger data organizations, the bill mandates the appointment of a data protection officer and an independent auditor for periodic compliance audits. Who will put the Digital Data Protection Bill into action? A pivotal provision in the bill involves the creation of the Data Protection Board of India, DPB, marking India's first dedicated regulatory body focusing on upholding personal data privacy. The DPB will be responsible for overseeing compliance and imposing penalties on organizations found to be non-compliant. The board, and its members for action taken in good faith. What about the companies? Companies and institutions are required to delete user data if it no longer serves the intended business purpose. No corporation or organization will be permitted to process personal data that is likely to have any detrimental effect on a child's well-being. On the basis of national security, government agencies may be exempt from the legislation. What will the repercussions be? Noncompliance and failure to take reasonable precautions to prevent data breaches can result in penalties for entities. Entities that violate the criteria can face fines of up to 250 crore rupees and a minimum of 50 crore rupees. How do other countries govern data protection? According to the United Nations Trade Agency UNCTAD, around 70% of countries worldwide have some type of data protection legislation. The EU's General Data Protection Regulation, which took effect in 2018, is billed as the toughest privacy and security law in the world, and is widely regarded as the global standard. Several countries, like China and Vietnam, have lately tightened regulations controlling the transfer of personal data abroad, while Australia introduced legislation in 2018 granting police access to encrypted data.